All right, on this episode of the Radical Fabulatorium, I welcome back Izzie and Scarlett from Chokecherry. Their brand new record, debut LP, Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls, is out now on Fearless Records, so go ahead and grab that any way you can. They're on the road right now for a pretty extensive headlining tour with a couple dates coming to Canada. December 13th in Montreal at Les Foufounes Electriques and December 14th at Hard Luck Bar in Toronto, Ontario. Check out chokecherryforever.com. That's chokecherry with the number 4, chokecherryforever.com. Check out the tour dates and grab the record. All right, here we go.
On the music video for Secrets, if you've seen it, I got the worst sunburn I think I've ever seen, like, on a person. And it's a corset-shaped sunburn, which I think is even more comical and ironic because I'm the first person to get one of those since, like, the 1800s. But yeah, it's still there. If I take a really hot shower, it still, like, flares up in bright reds. Really? I can't escape it. My skin is a different tone now. That's okay.
Brutal. That's funny.
So, it was brutal. Yeah, I didn't think I'd get burned that badly in Oakland outdoors, but such is life. Anyway,
yeah,
nice to see you. Thank you so much for having us back.
No problem. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on the Radical Fabulatorium today, Izzie and Scarlett. I'm stoked to have you back on the show.
See you. Thank you so much for having us.
So the new full length, I guess I should say the debut full length, comes out on November 14th. Exciting to have a full length under the belt, I bet.
Yeah, it's really thrilling.
This one kind of like, and you worked with 3 producers on this one, is that right?
Yeah, we worked with Zach Tush, who did our EP, and Chris Grant, who did our first 2 singles ever. So it was super fun to come back to San Francisco and kind of get back to our roots there. And then we worked with Chris Cody for 2 tracks, which was really crazy. We had never met him or worked with him before, but he's made so many albums that we absolutely adore. Dive, Yeah, Yeahs, Tamarin, Tamarin's Crane Kiss is an album I've been listening to nonstop lately. And it also very much reminds me of the Bay Area music scene. But yeah, 3 producers. Chris Cody mixed it all. He was our finisher, and he killed it. We're very excited to show it to the world.
Yeah, it sounds great. Maybe I could just focus on the title track, Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls. It kind of starts with this interesting drum loop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris Cody made that for us, but we had the idea that we wanted a track that had a drum loop on it for some time, and it just so happened that was the one that came to fruition. But Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls and Pretty Things are the tracks that we did with Chris Cody, and they both have sort of like themes of childhood and innocence loss and that sort of energy, and they sort of helped us understand what the whole album was about and where we were going with our themes. But yeah, we had some drum loops and sampling in Massey Star as well, which is the title track of the EP. So it's kind of funny that it happened that way.
It worked out again. Yeah, that is interesting. And you mentioned Pretty Things. That's probably one of my favorite. I just got the album yesterday, so I've been listening to it a few times now. But I think Pretty Things might be one of my favorite tunes.
I'm really glad you like it. Thanks. We had a lot of fun with those tracks. We had Zachary Colesmith and Ben from Dive playing on those final 2 with Chris Cody. But it was really cool to have Chris Cody mix everything and to kind of have that like finisher, have that closer man come in and unify these 3 very different producers and these 3 very different sounds, and to see like how they all came about in the process.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, actually, the cohesion of having 3 different producers, but that probably explains it right there, having the one person mix the finished tracks.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard decision for who to go with, for who was going to mix the whole thing. And we definitely agonized over it a little bit because we knew how important it was going to be for the product in the end. But I'm super pleased. I think we're both very happy the way it came out. And it's kind of like a gargantuan feat to take something as like band centric as Chris Grant and then like marry it to, a more production heavy thing like Zach Tush, to marry it to a more, to Chris Cody. But I think that it really was able to come together. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And there's lots of like hidden secrets in the mix, like I think track 1, there's some like ping pong delay and the whispering vocals. And there's that one track with like the The little like gun cocking sample.
Oh yeah.
Whose idea was that? If you don't mind me, now everyone's gonna have to go find it. That's kind of a challenge. That's like an Easter egg. But like, how did that come to be?
It's probably Chris Grant's idea.
Yeah, it was. It was.
He loves sound effects, and so do we. It's ambiance. It's world building.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really cool. I thought it was very appropriate, of course, right when the word gun is sung. So it's, well, pretty much so.
It's perhaps a little on the nose.
No. It's in the mix. I didn't hear it on speakers. I had to be listening in headphones before I picked up on it. So,
Okay.
You know what I think is so cool about that? About like little Easter eggs like that too. And I know it's like right on the word gun and like, yeah, you could, someone could say it's on those. I think that there are elements of like, obviously Izzie and I have a lot of different things that inspire us musically and a lot of overlap and also a lot of like slightly different influences that we bring together. But one of the things that we really do love is pop. We love pop. We love early 2000s pop. We love 90s pop. And even like modern pop, like Last Dinner Party and Chapel Roan, you know, we'll listen to in the van and like get really excited about. And sometimes there are these like on the nose moments in pop that like people, you know, it's easy to laugh or to giggle or be like, oh yeah, that's, you know, I think it resonates. I think it really does translate and shine through. And I'm actually really glad that I think there's like a level of bravery to doing like the classic pop shit. And I think that that's really cool that we get to do that as well as everything else that we love.
And it kind of gives the listeners' ears a reason to perk back up, you know, like it gets their attention. So that's kind of the name of the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you hear a gun sound in America, you know, perk up. Hopefully I'll get my green card soon.
Why, are you worried about being deported? Is that what you're getting at?
It's getting there. But would I be sad to be deported? Probably not. At this point, take me to Canada.
Take me to Canada.
Canada in December.
Yeah, Montreal and Toronto, right? You're playing Fuffoons in Montreal. That's a wicked venue.
Yeah.
I've never played there before. We've only played a fair amount, but we are going to absolutely run some poutine.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Perhaps I'll get a haircut. I'm excited.
Cool. And first headlining tour, right? Your debut headlining tour?
Yes, AJ.
How does that feel different, like headlining a tour versus being like a supporting act? Can you maybe talk about how that's different or what that feels like?
We haven't we haven't done a headlining tour we've done like a couple weekend shows, like weekend runs, and one-off headliners, but yeah, personally, I'm like, I get a little nervous, so sometimes I like to play early. But I think the more shows we have under our belt, the more those nerves will go away. And it'll be cool to meet all the people who just who came to see our show as opposed to seeing another band. And I'm excited to play like the whole album and play a bunch of songs, not to worry about time. That'll be really cool. And I'm excited most of all to play our cover of Milkshake by Kellis.
Hard agree. Am I going to get fried for saying this on air? Probably. Please don't come for me, Cat's Eye fans. But the dancing is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Like the coordination and the cohesion, and like some of them, like they're really good singers. Like it's this weird pop boot camp thing that they're doing with K-pop now. This is completely off topic. And they tried to do, I think it's a US TV show. I'm so out of the loop, where they made like a K-pop style US group that made Cat's Eye. But anyway, they did the Milkshake ad with Gap. And now that song is back. Somebody euthanized me. I think I might need more caffeine before I keep talking.
I'm not hip to that. I'm not hip to that either. But aren't you both theater kids? Like, doesn't that make sense that you'd be kind of into that scene?
Yeah, we definitely are. Yeah, he knows. He remembers. So Izzie played the hag. And I feel like this is the thing, is like we know each other's stories now, which I think is really awesome. I was a child actor, which I don't like talk about very much, but when I was a kid,
child actor.
yeah, kinda. I mean, I was signed to an agency called Stars, and I was on a Japanese TV show. And I got pulled out of school to like, I did stuff with American Conservatory Theater. I did like A Christmas Carol for a couple years, and then I did like operetta shit, and I like toured with Lamplighters and like did operetta stuff over California. And so like I did that stuff as a younger person. And then I don't know, I got a little bit older and I got really, really nervous. And I actually developed like severe stage fright to the point that I couldn't do anything. So I was still doing classical voice and I loved it. And I went to SOTA, the public arts high school, for opera. But like, I was honestly like too scared to make sound a lot of the time, which is crazy. But that is how that went down. And so then I stopped singing for quite a few years. And then I found the DIY scene at Berkeley, and then I joined bands, and now we arrive here. But yeah, as a kid, I was very precocious and you know, like constantly, like I was that kid at a sleepover who was like, what if we put on a dance number for the parents and that makes them let us have a sleepover? Like I was that kid. So I definitely had the theater child energy.
Okay.
I still have theater kid energy, which sucks, but it's also great. It's the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's neat. That's interesting. I wanted to ask you too, just because like I randomly read, or I think I read, or maybe you mentioned it in another interview, that the book We, that Russian book.
Yeah. What about it?
Yeah. Like I just have it right here because I just started rereading.
Wait, shut the hell up.
So I found
Are
it.
you serious?
Yeah. It's a book I randomly came across years and years and years ago at a used clothing store. And then I learned that it was kind of influential in the kind of dystopian scene. But I thought it was banned for a while in Russia or something. But
It was. Wait, okay, this is very exciting. So I went to UC Berkeley and I double majored in Russian language and literature and global studies. And for Russian literature specifically, I did 20th century Russian literature. And I specifically did like early revolutionary texts, but like biblical allegory in revolutionary ideology of like that time period. And We by Evgeny Zamyatin was one of my core texts. So I've done a lot of translation of that text, and I love it. I think it's really interesting because if you get into, have you read it?
yeah, I read it a number of years ago, and then I started reading it again. Yeah,
totally. And so one of the reasons that it kind of struggles with like, you know, when you look at, you know, like poets and authors like Mayakovsky, who are more, you know, the children of the revolution, like poet laureate children of the revolution, you then read something like We, and there's a lot of like this idea that revolution is cyclical instead of linear, which wasn't popular at the time and, you know, didn't go with the Soviet ideology. And then there's the biblical allegory, which people don't love, like Eve and Lilith, when you're looking like, and all, you know, all these sorts of different characters in Zamyatin. So I feel like, as not to like alienate anyone who's listening, also you can edit all this out, do you want to like tell them what it's about? Kind of like describe it, Jay?
well, I read it like 10 years ago. So, but I mean, it's very like, you know, like dystopian society. The kind of the individual is lost. Everyone's kind of like working for you could say they're working for the state, but kind of like the, what's the word? I guess I'll just read the book right here. The benefactor, right?
Yes.
And how like
Exactly.
it seems like all personality, the individual is totally gone. Everyone's kind of like
Totally.
kind of amalgamated into like
Exactly. So it's like the first. It's credited. It's widely credited as like the first dystopian novel, right? Mm-hmm. And so you know, it's pre-Orwell. It's pre a lot of the stuff that we consider like dystopian literature. And in this like society where everything has been perfected, there's a main character who's writing journal entries. And, you know, he's going through life in this perfect society. They're building this like spaceship type thing called the Integral. Like you're going through his thoughts and feelings, and he sort of is having this like awakening where he's coming back to being a human being, and feeling like human desires. Like there's like ticket slips for who you get to have intimacy with, and like everything is regulated by the state, and your windows don't have curtains that go down, and everyone can see each other other than if you're having sex. And so it's like this. It's this weird thing, and then he comes into contact with like a, for lack of a better phrase, secret society where people are rebelling against the state. And it's just sort of like his awakening into like personhood from being just like a cog in this like seemingly perfect society and machine. And that's sort of the idea that like, even if, you know, everything is perfect in society is like, they totally got it right. The benefactor totally got it right. Like it still seeps through the cracks, and revolution is cyclical, and it's not just one revolution. It's like, there's always things that are revolution, like it's forever, you know? But anyway, I don't think that has a great deal to do with our music, but like, if anyone ever wants to talk to me about that, hit me up, because that's all I do. So.
Well, the reason I bring it up, I think it does a little bit, because I've heard, Izzie, you mentioned like your concerns with AI getting involved in art, but like humanity can't really be perfected or distilled or like the way they talk about it in that book. Like that's not possible, I don't think. But then like,
right.
I mean, AI is getting so close to being, I don't know what the right word is, but like falsely artistic. Like when you hear some of those like covers that AI is starting to put out that are like soul covers of rap songs and stuff.
It's getting pretty good. My friend showed me this website that he was using. He made this voice memo, and the song was written, but he plugged it into AI and was like, make it sound crunchy, like all these descriptive words, and then the AI spit out basically a fully produced track. And I was actually with our producer Chris Grant too, and we just looked at each other like, my brother in Christ, you're going to be out of a job. Yeah, I think the demand for like actually verifiable human created art maybe will increase. I don't necessarily feel like people really enjoy generative AI media. I think it's kind of been shoved down our throats to like prop up this financial bubble surrounding AI. But yeah.
Well, I would tend to agree. I think you can feel when something is AI. And like when I listen to your guys' new record, like it kind of has that 90s feeling to it. Like right out of the gates with the first song, February, it feels like there's some push and pull with the drums. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't a click track on, I don't know if you recorded obviously I don't know if you recorded with a click or not, but the way that kind of February kind of feels like pushes and pulls, I mean, that feels very human to me, to my ears anyway, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that flaws are a really charming part of music. Like people who sing a little bit, you know, off kilter. I love that stuff. For example, is an example of a band with vocals that aren't like pop perfect, but they're so tender and relatable. And I don't know, I love that stuff. And I think also live music will become more important as AI, you know, continues to like pump out music and art. It's like in a way, these tools that could potentially separate us might actually be the thing that bring us closer together, closer to community, which would be really cool to see.
Yeah, it could have that.
Hard agree. But like, look at the popularity of a band like Geese, like happening right now. I mean, that's a great example of when you're talking about vocals that are a little bit off kilter. It's so human. I also think though that, I hate to say this, but I think that save for a few really great examples of like Bjork and FKA Twigs, like usually people are far more accepting of like people they perceive of as men or male identified people having off kilter vocals and that being like cool. But I think that like the lyrics and the musicality and the kind of things that you're seeing in a band like Geese, which is having this like seemingly overnight explosion, like that's not something that AI could really get. And I mean, sure, AI can get it eventually, and it is rapidly progressing to the point that I'm sure it can make anything you could possibly imagine or dream of. But I think people are craving the more human touch in things lately. I think that, I think that a lot of my favorite singers are people whose voices aren't anywhere close to what someone would consider like perfect. Like I like people who sound like people, you know, I don't know.
Can you clarify, you mentioned that like in male singers can sometimes get away with being less perfect, but were you kind of hinting that female vocalists should tend to need to be poppier or something like that?
No, I wouldn't say tend to need to be popular, but I would say that I think in the cultural zeitgeist, like for the past maybe, I don't know, 70 years, you'll hear people value, like people love, for instance, obviously Bob Dylan is an incredible lyricist. So, you know, I'm trying to like table that kind of logic here, but I don't know, there's plenty of rock stars who don't have the best voice, like, you know, who are guys who are allowed to be imperfect, and that's considered cool or sexy or interesting. And I just notice more so, I think that people expect femme identifying presenting people to like be able to sing or whatever that means, or are more harshly judging like personal uniqueness in their voices, if that makes any sense. So like, you know, when you have like a Bjork or a PJ Harvey, it's like people are very much so you love it or you hate it. Like it's very polarizing. Whereas like you have a Mick Jagger and everyone looks with it.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
I don't know if that makes much sense, but I'm like spewing a lot of opinions today.
It's okay.
It's concerning. I haven't been media trained, so I hope that that's cool.
Well, for the record, we can edit out anything you want after the fact, but if you want to let me know, but
No, it's fine.
Opinions are
Let them know.
Opinions are very human.
It's true. Yeah, it's good to have human, and it's also good to like. I also think one of the cool things about opinions on these things is like my opinions really do grow and shift and change with time. And like the more art that you consume or the more that you read or the more that you're exposed to. And I think that that's what's so cool too, is like, I love being like proved wrong or like finding out that I feel completely differently than I did 5 years ago based on what I know now. So I'm never very dead set in like creative opinions and stuff like that. I feel like I'm learning all the time. But yeah, that's how I feel about that right now.
Cool. Gotcha. Yeah, it's a good time to shout out Fiona Apple. She would be one of the female vocalist that does amazing things. But back to the record, just because we only got a couple minutes left. The last track on the record,
Right.
You Love It When. That like, can we? How did that song come about? Just because it kind of feels like I'm always interested how people start records and end records, and like sequencing is very interesting to me. But that album, that song kind of feels different the way it ends the record.
So I think
maybe you have an order that's not right, my friend. I'm so sorry, because the last track is Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls.
Oh, no way.
It's the title track.
Okay.
Way.
Oh, no.
We can.
what order are you looking at?
Yeah.
I'll show you how it came to me. It's like February, Goldmine, Major Threat, Oblivion, Part of You. No, really?
No.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, because that's going to change your perception of everything.
Oh, yeah, because I'm a full...
Our first track. I know you are. We'll send you.
Did try to put a lot of thought into the sequence.
Oh no,
we really did. It took us a while.
Okay.
Right, is the ending track, and it's basically like a somber reflection of the themes that you've seen throughout the album.
Okay.
And the way it ends is supposed to just kind of be like with a whisper. Sorry, I think there's like 1,000.
That's no problem.
A chorus of leaf blowers.
I think you should take this.
Okay, I will take this one. So Izzie and I feel like what was cool about the title track is that it's the last one that we did front to back. Like we still had some edits to do on Oblivion and finish that up, but other than that, Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls was the last one that we wrote, and we wrote it with Chris Cody in the studio. And I think that we ended up like finding some really like vulnerable and challenging subject matter for both of ours in terms of our lives and like loss and childhood and just stuff that like I don't even really think, I don't know, the track makes me cry almost every time I listen to it, and I listen to it pretty often, but it was one of those things that we sometimes joke about the idea that, you know, songs and music are like downloads from the universe. Like we like the Michael Jackson, I have to get in the studio, otherwise Prince is going to get the song type energy. And we, with the track called Porcelain Warrior, like walked in on a Friday to work with Zach Tush in April and then left that Friday with the song. And we didn't have all the words yet, but we had the song front to back. And like, we really we don't spend a ton of, at least for this album, we didn't spend a ton of time like bouncing around and editing, like hyper editing, road testing, all of this. Like we really just kind of played what came to us and just made it happen. And we weren't trying to like, oh, let's make a soft songs, but no, we just showed up and made whatever made sense that day, with who we were working with. And it was a really interesting process, versus the EP Messy Star. 4 of the 5 tracks on there, we had like road tested and like really, written, spent time with, like, so it was a different process. But for the title track, I don't know, we've been talking about it in all these different press interviews, but I think that it's just a lot of it's about loss.
Okay.
As Izzie fidget spins. A lot of it's about loss. But it is. And I think I keep using the phrase imagined futures, but it's sort of like you have all these potential futures that you imagine for yourself, and whether or not your own choices took it away or the world took it away for you, you don't end up living out everything that you imagine or dream for yourself. And sometimes that's like, because of the way that the state of the world has changed, which is a really, really big theme for us. Sometimes it's about death. Sometimes it's about growing older. I don't know. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's pretty heavy and it's pretty heartbreaking and it's pretty sad. But we were both working through a lot of shit at the time. I feel like we always are, and we're always like honest and try to be with what we do. So it just is a reflection of where we were at the time.
Yeah, I feel like it helped us get through a period of mourning, and it was very healing to be able to write so much in a year like 2025 where things were changing rapidly. Things are changing rapidly, both personally and on a collective level. Mm-hmm. So I hope that everyone listening takes solace in the fact that you're not alone, and it's hopefully a sad but hopeful album.
I think that's accurate. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's an enjoyable listen, and if it's heavy, it's heavy. People need to feel those feelings. So, I think go for it.
I really like Major Threat into Pretty Things.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like keeping the energy up.
Yeah, maybe you could talk to Major Threat, because that's pretty punk rock compared to like, especially when you compare it to Messy Star.
For sure, it was one of the first chokecherry tracks Iz ever dabbled in.
New Year's Eve, 2022. What a night! Oh my god.
That's when Major Threat came to be.
Yeah, I was supposed to go into like film Shannon and the Clams at the chapel for this New Year's show, and yeah, I don't know, just came to be, and we kind of always had it in our back pocket, but never played it live till this year.
Interesting. So it could have been on the EP, but you chose not to put it on there.
Yeah.
Could have been on the EP for sure. There's also so many other tracks that I forgot about that are in the vault that were supposed to go on this album that we forgot about.
No, literally.
It's all funny, but I also feel like it happens how it's supposed to.
I think, Major Threat could have been on the EP. The Lisas, which everyone constantly asks us for that we haven't released yet. Those need to go somewhere at some point because everybody wants the Lisas. It's so funny. Pretty Things used to be called Shame, because that's a word that I said a million times. I was like, shame. And then Izzie's like, we can't actually call this shame, can we? I was like, no, we really can't. But that one happened because I couldn't read the news. I just couldn't keep reading the news. And I was like, what am I doing?
Too depressing?
Yeah, I mean, like, no matter how many times I read it, I just couldn't like absorb anything because it hurt so bad. And I just found myself sort of staring at a wall at Don Robertson's house in Los Angeles, California, in Culver City. Shout out to Don. But yeah, no, it was, and I was like, this is too high. I'm never going to be able to sing that. And then we kept it in the same key. And now we're going to have to figure out how to do it live.
Yeah, it is quite high. Yeah, it's interesting.
I can sing it, but it's because I can sing quite high, but it's just about, I think, getting it high and soft and like having like a good intonation with it. But yeah, it's the same kind of energy. Isn't it such a shame that things don't feel the way they did when you were a kid? It's the same energy as a lot of what this album talks about. I'm trying to think of what other tracks on the album are older, though. I feel like the rest of them we wrote specifically for the album.
For this record? Cool.
Oh, I mean, Oblivion was the first one that we started for the album.
The first one you started writing? Yeah, okay. That's a cool track. So You Love It When. Can we, since I did originally, and that's the song I thought was the end of the record, but is there something, like, am I crazy, or is there something different about that song? Did that come to be in a different way, or was there like a
slightly
different process in that one?
I mean, yes and no. I got a mean text message from somebody and felt upset, and so it kind of started off as like a tongue-in-cheeky, like, the half this track. Mm-hmm. But we obviously brought it into Chris Grant and like greatly developed it and like added so much to it that wasn't there. And I think perhaps maybe it came from like a slightly different place to begin with, but it's the only track we've ever done that has gang vocals on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. Chris Grant yelled with us on that, which was really fun. Hopefully we can open for Turnstile someday.
That'd be cool.
Not kidding, not even joking. Yeah.
Maybe can we talk briefly? I don't want to take up too much of your time either, but the artwork kind of like gives me like Riot Girl vibes a little bit. I don't know if that's appropriate, but like it kind of just feels like the 90s again, which is
that's great.
Totally wicked to me.
I'm so glad. I think we worked with Whitney. Her last name is Otte, and I always pronounce it wrong. Izzie, do you know the proper pronunciation?
Phone a friend.
Okay, phone a friend. Well, Whitney, though, is such an incredible photographer and collage artist. And when we were first gathering ideas about what we were hoping for the album cover, I was really committed to the idea of an oil painting for some reason. There's an oil painter who, her name's Daisy Patton, and she does these blown up photographs of people from, anywhere from like the 1890s to the 1950s, I want to say, and paints over them in this so these black and white photos blown up to maybe like 9 feet by 9 feet, and then does like these Technicolor oil painting things on top of them. And I thought it was a really cool idea for an album that was so heavily based around memory and loss and all sorts of things. And I thought maybe childhood photos of us. And of course, Daisy has like a million commitments and like an art show to prepare for, and so she wasn't able to do it, but shout out her work. Please go check her out. But we really wanted kind of like a multimedia album cover, like a collage style album cover. And Whitney, one of the coolest things about Whitney is she's an incredible photographer, videographer, creative director, but all of the pieces and items that she has in her home go so well with our personal themes and the things that we really love aesthetically and that we really like in terms of this album and just in general. And she like bought fruit and molded it, like got it moldy or rotted it in her fridge for like a week before the shoot. Like she knew exactly what types of fabrics to buy, and like we were smashing berries and scanning our faces with moth wings, and all the bugs in our hair are actually real dried bugs that she had in her house.
That's cool.
And like the sword in my hand, like the knife, the gauntlet that Izzie's wearing, all of those are just Whitney's personal items. So it wasn't like some, and it wasn't some conjuring of set decoration, which is also incredible, but it was just what she genuinely had because her personal aesthetic fit so well into that theme. And then all of the scans that you see on the album cover, they're not, generated images. They're all scans of figs and scans of real butterfly wings, that she put on a scanner and actually overlaid. So I think that kind of like whimsical 90s collage art theme, I think that is really cool. And I hope that translates. I wasn't purposefully dreaming of the 90s when I was thinking of the multimedia cover, but some of the best album covers are that, and shot on film, obviously, and, all of that. So love Whitney, shout out Whitney, and her creative mind and everybody coming together for that. There's also this really cool artist named Dasha Plian who does mold art. She's out of Russia, and she does specifically like the circular lab grown. They're not slides. I don't know what they're called. The cultures of mold, and she specifically makes colorful mold and makes mold art and does photography of it, and is very successful now. She's really built a whole world around mold art, and I was very inspired by her mold art. And then for Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls, that's super cool. And now actually to deepen the web, there's an artist, a makeup artist named May Peng, who made a really cool palette called Rotten that is inspired by mold. And this came out after we shot our album cover. I was like, this is crazy. And she used Dasha Plian's images of mold. So, it's sort of like there's something currently happening that I think that sort of phrasing or terminology, like it's resonating in a cultural sense, perhaps. And I wonder why, but
Cultural sense.
I think that
Cultural sense.
Thank you for that. That's 100% correct. I think that also, in times of like revolution and massive political upheaval and change, like there's a lot of fruit allegory. There's a lot of like, cyclical, like the same, going back to revolution and that sort of allegory. So I guess, Jay, I think you did hit the nail on the head. Maybe it is relevant, but there's a lot of like, I feel like more of my friends are getting married. More people are having children. More people are having massive life changes. Like, there's more notable changes in terms of how people are living their lives outside of stasis, because we're in a period of massive upheaval and change. And I think that fruit being born and birthed and dying and rotting and all that is all very relevant too. So I probably sound absolutely batshit crazy on this podcast. I'm really sorry, but I hope that some element of it resonates with somebody out there. And just the general idea that like a lot of times with art and cultural movements, like things are really interconnected and are very time, place. And I feel like for us, the album is super time, place, and happened when it happened, how it happened, because of what we were noticing, what we were going through and what everyone around us was going through. And I think that, when you look at art from certain eras of, massive change in culture and society, whenever there's often themes that kind of like threads that run through it. And what I guess I'm trying to say through so many words, too many words, is I'm noticing a trend of like rotting and fruit and that sort of thing. So I guess that's my thesis. Thanks for tuning in.
I think you nailed it. I personally think you nailed it. Yeah. So Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls, out November 14th on Fearless Records, fantastic record label. And then you got your release show on the 14th, right? Then you're hitting the road, North America,
yes, in
November and December.
Yes, we are.
Very cool. So my Canadian listeners, Toronto and Montreal, they're both kind of far away from where I'm at, but worth the trek, worth the road trip for any of my listeners that want to check it out. I sure
hope so.
And the music videos that you have out right now, are they also shot to film? Because you did film for the EP ones?
Yeah, so two of them are. So Goldmine and Secrets are both shot on 16 millimeter. And then Izzie co-directed the Major Threat music video. Would you like to tell them about it?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. I co-directed Major Threat with Whitney, and I co-directed the upcoming Porcelain Warrior music video with Jack Boston, who directed Goldmine and Secrets. It was a great experience to be able to learn more about that world. It was really awesome. And I'm very excited to share that with everybody. Those two videos kind of poke fun at the patriarchy in different ways. Major Threat's more of a romantic scorn video. And Porcelain Warrior uses religious iconography to kind of explore how religion has oppressed women and controlled women. Stay tuned for that. Big thank you to Jack Boston and Whitney and Fearless Records and to the listeners of this podcast.
Yeah, wicked. Well, thanks a lot to you, Izzie and Scarlett, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll just remind everyone again, November 14th, and chokecherryforever.com would be a good place to go visit, to check out all the tour dates, check out all the music, and everything involved with Chokecherry.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Lovely to see you again, and lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Shout out Canadian Radio. Bye all.
All right, and that was my chat with Izzie and Scarlett from Chokecherry. Their brand new record, Ripe Fruit, Rots and Falls, is out now on Fearless Records. Check out chokecherryforever.com. That's Chokecherry with the number 4, chokecherryforever.com. Grab tickets for their tour. Thanks for listening.